All right, so today we are going to section 0.3. Again, chapter 0 is not an actual chapter. It's just kind of extra stuff that we're kind of putting in, but there are three things that we want to cover with you guys. So this is the third one, not the second one. So we're going to kind of jump really quick. But we are factoring with a not equal to 1. So we saw yesterday that when a was equal to 1, it was pretty easy. You didn't even have to divide it because dividing by 1 doesn't do anything. So in that case, not a big deal. In this case, we do have to kind of think about, okay, my A value is not a 1. What do I do in that case? Okay. First thing you always want to do, though, make sure, and I'm going to kind of put a little note over here on the side. Let me do that over here. Always check the GCF. Okay, the greatest common factor. Always make sure that your greatest common factor is checked because if they have something in common, usually it makes the problem easier if you can factor it out. So I'm going to look at my problem here, 3b squared minus 14b minus, plus 8. And I'm going to look to see if they have anything in common. They don't have any b's. Well, at least two of them have b's, but not the third one. So I can't factor out a b. I can't factor out a number either because 3 doesn't go into 14, it doesn't go into 8. So I can't factor anything out, so I am going to go ahead and just start doing the x method, right? So my a is equal to 3, my b is negative 14, and my c is 8. Okay, so now that I have those three numbers, I'm going to go ahead and do the x method here. So a times c, that's going to be 24, and b is negative 14. Now, in this case, two numbers that multiply to 24 that add up to negative 14, I can use the numbers 12 and 2, but both of them being negative, okay? Because negative 12 times negative 2 is a positive 24. A negative 12 plus a negative 2 is a negative 14, right? So they add to the bottom number, they multiply to the top. So these are my solutions, but a is 3, I'm going to have to divide, okay? Now, the negative 2/3 is just going to stay negative 2/3. Nothing happens to that one, so I'm just going to kind of leave it like that. But the negative 12/3 becomes a negative 4, and that'll be my other answer. So remember, what you're supposed to do is write your solutions out, but no fractions are allowed, right? So you're going to write b minus 4 times b minus 2/3, but this 3 on the bottom is going to have to go up to the front. So it's going to be a 3b minus 2. So b minus 4 times the 3b minus 2. Here. So there's your solution for that. Okay, so b minus 4 times the 3b minus 2 is what I get as my answer for the question. So we tried to do the GCF, it didn't work. So after we can't take out anything, we're just going to do the x method. If we have a fraction as one of our factors, then we have to fix that. Okay. So here's another one, and then after this, we're going to do one that's a little different. Okay. This one's still the same. You try taking out a p-value. It doesn't. They don't all have one. You try to take out something that they might share. Now notice, a 6 and a 33 and a 15. What do they have in common? They do have something in common. A 3, right? So I can actually take out a 3. And that leaves me with the 2p squared minus 11p plus a 5. Now that 3 is important. Don't forget about it. We're going to need to drop it down later. Okay? But for now, we're just going to focus on this part right. So let's go ahead and focus on the squiggly portion, right? So my A is 2. My B is negative 11. And my C is a positive 5. So my A is 2. My B is a negative 11. My C is a positive 5. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and do the x method. So I have my A times C, that's 10. My B is negative 11. So I'm going to use a negative 1 and a negative 10. Okay? Because negative 1 times negative 10 does multiply to positive 10, and negative 1 plus a negative 10 does add up to a negative 7. So I need. Now remember, since a is 2, I got to divide by it. Okay? So the negative half is just going to stay a negative half. Okay? But when I divide the negative 10 by 2, it becomes a negative 5. So that one's done. So let's go ahead and factor this. So it's going to be p minus half times p minus 5. And then there's a 3 on the outside. Okay, don't forget about that 3. It's going to have to come down, right? And then we got to fix the fraction. So that half, the 2 has to come up to the front. So that's 3 times 2p minus 1 times p minus 5. And that's going to be our answer for this section. Okay? So, like I said, I'm trying to show you a couple little different situations. So the third example is a little bit different because it does have numbers in common and it actually has a negative in the front. So remember what I told you guys, anytime it has a leading negative, take it out. It's just going to make your life a lot easier. So I am going to factor out a negative, what do they have in common here? A negative 3 again. So we'll take out a negative and a 3. Okay? So that leaves me with the 3x squared minus x, plus x. Remember, you have to change the sign, right? Factor out a negative, you have to change the sign. So it should be a plus x minus 10. Okay? Focusing on the inside portion, right? This little squiggly line area. So my a term is a 3. My b term is a 1. My c term is a negative. All right? So go ahead and do your estimate. 3 times negative 10, that's negative 30. And b is 1. Okay? So at that point, I got to think of two numbers that multiply to negative 30 that add up to a positive 1. What should I use? I'll tell you this. One's positive, one's negative. No? Nobody? We got a 6 and a negative 5. Excuse me. So a positive 6 and a negative 5. So that multiplies to negative 30. It adds up to a positive 1. We do have to divide by 3 because a is 3. So that leaves me with a positive 2. And this one will be basically a negative 5/3. There's nothing I can do with it. So I'm going to have to move that fraction over. So my factors are x plus 2, x minus 5/3. And then I got to drop that negative 3, right? I have to come back down here. I forgot to highlight it. Should I do that? So I'm going to drop down that negative 3 right here. Now this 3 on the bottom has to go up to the front of the x. So my answer is going to be a negative 3 times x plus 2 times the 3x minus 5. And that'll be my solution. So what you guys are doing today is kind of like what we did last time. You're going to be working on just the x method, but now with numbers in front. And if you have to factor stuff out. Okay, but you will have some a terms, and you have to divide by those a terms. So probably end up as fractions on one case or the other. So make sure you don't leave your answer as fractions. Move that denominator in front of it. Okay. Let me give you guys a worksheet, and again, if you finish right away, let me see it. You can grab your phone immediately.